Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're all well. You're amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. This is video 2 of 2 and an unscheduled one, really. I was supposed to be going live later on today, but I don't know whether it's the weather or because they're still continuing to do the upgrade from normal internet to fibre in the area. The internet is literally going on and off constantly, and I just don't want to risk it, so I've got to wait for it to settle down before I start doing lives. I do apologize. They will be coming. Like I say, they are doing work locally to upgrade the entire system to fiber, but at the moment it's all over the place, and it ain't worth the risk. So we have got this video, which I was going to be doing tomorrow. So tomorrow I'll have something different. But what is it? It's this, right? This is Dr. G. Now, Dr. G is a professional. He's a professional, and he's talking about Bryan Kohberger. And together, we're going to listen to what he has to say. Again, he's a professional. I'm not a professional. I do have a degree in psychology, but I didn't do fuck all with it. But he's a professional, so just bear that in mind. So we listen to what he's got to say about some of the recent information surrounding Bryan Kohberger and just see how much we agree with. Let's have a look.
G here. I'm a clinical and forensic psychologist as well as a body language expert, but today we're not going to be analyzing body language. Today we're going to be doing a forensic analysis of Bryan Kohberger's office as well as his apartment.
So again, he's a professional. We can't get. He's got a large following. He's highly respected. I'm not saying I'm going to disagree with everything he says, but do I agree with everything he says?
Before we get started, a couple of quick things. One, I wanted to make sure you know this is not a psychological evaluation of any kind. These are just my opinions. In addition to that, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see.
But he is a forensic psychologist. Did he not just say that? So he did say it's not a forensic psychology evaluation. It's his opinion, but it's his opinion as a forensic specialist, a professional.
Content just like this. All right, let's go. We're going to start out today by looking at pictures from his office at Washington State University. Then we're going to look at some pictures from his apartment. I'm starting here because if you saw the cover of the video, there's something that I really want to reveal to you that I haven't heard anybody else talk about. Now, if you look at this whiteboard from his office, on the right hand, it says, "Take it easy, don't give up." That could be referring to many things, could be referring to some demented, deranged thing.
We also, what I will say, is we don't know who's wrote on that board. We literally don't know. We can only guess who's wrote on that board. We've seen Bryan Kohberger's writing, which don't seem fantastic. So even here, where it says "take it easy, don't give up," they don't actually appear to be written by the same person. Some might argue, but they don't look to be. They look like slightly different types of writing. If you, for instance, look at the capital E on easy, but then you look at the capital E on give, they do not match. The same as the capital I on it versus the capital I on give. They do not match. There's consistency through here with the two capital E's, but we don't have a consistency between this line and this line here. So that would indicate to me, as a non-professional, that there's a potential that these two pieces of writing were not written by the same person. Now, he is going to go on to talk about some writing here, which I believe he states is Korean, and that says something that could be indicative of something nefarious, I believe.
Thinks about, but we don't have any specific evidence of that. However, I want you to look on the left side. Now, I know there's not a lot of folks out there that probably read or understand Korean well. Fortunately for you, I do. So we're going to be able to translate what's written over here. Now, if you look towards the bottom, it says Kohberger in Korean. Pretty simple. Above it, from what I can tell, I think this is half of the name Bryan right there. So you're getting the second half of the name Bryan. So Bryan Kohberger. Nothing shocking. People write their names in another language all the time if they're studying it or they're interested in it. Now, what's interesting is what's above that. You see the word Cal. So I think a lot of people probably look at this and just assume it's a name. Somebody named Cal, something like that. However, it's not. It's the word Kal. And what that means is knife. So right here.
But again, how do we know who wrote it? How do we know who wrote it? We genuinely don't know who wrote it, do we? We can speculate, and because we've got half of the board also blocked out, we also don't know what any of the other context is around it. But let's just carry on.
This whiteboard, he has knife written there with brackets, emphasizing it. This is what's on his mind. And that's what you have to think about.
On whose mind? He has literally succumbed to the fact that this is definitely Bryan's written on here, even though he is completely gone against the fact that these two pieces of writing are clearly written by different individuals, and there's lots of different little pieces of writing scattered about as well. He is just going to now draw a line down the middle of this and split it into a left and right hand situation, where on one side you've got positivity and the other side is negativity.
You're seeing his apartment, his office, and this is true of anybody. Our environment reflects our inner world. He could have written anything on this whiteboard, and I know he's a criminology student, but Karl writing knife, I think, speaks volumes about what's on his mind. So the dichotomy of the two sides is very striking. On one side, you see all of these positive, encouraging messages, take it easy, don't give up, let's go. On the left-hand side, he's got his name, and he has knife written with little brackets around it. So instead of writing let's go, instead of writing one of these encouraging statements in Korean, he wrote knife. I just want you to reflect on that, because I do think that is so important in understanding his psychology.
Is it important when you absolutely do not know who wrote it? That the board itself indicates that there are more than one person writing on it. Again, I'm speculating, but this would indicate to me, even those little sections that he showed you on there, it even looked like the Korean writing was written by someone with quite scruffy writing and someone with neater writing.
Now we're going to go through a ton of pictures looking at his office. This obviously is the front door of his office. It says hello, has the smiley face and exclamation point. Not clear if he wrote that or somebody else wrote it. His handwriting's not very good, so it's possible this was somebody else. But I want you to keep in mind, when the roommate of the victims was interviewed, one of the things he'd said was, "I'm trying to help you." He said that to one of the victims. It still is bizarre and chill.
I'm here to help you. Which we've already kind of succumbed to the fact that could have been actually the TV being on at that time and the audio from it from Vampire Diaries, which he's not touched on. I don't know whether he does mention it. And he's somehow trying to indicate that this writing on here somehow is indicative of the same person who wrote that would also go on to say, "I'm here to help you," while he was looking to kill people.
Even think that he said that to them. But doing something like this, trying to seem friendly like this, if this isn't actually how he feels, because he's reported to have had quite an edge on him, can be a way to try to superficially, in a very shallow way, seem friendly and inviting.
And again, we don't know who wrote this. Again, when you looked at the capital letter writing on the whiteboard, you've got one that seems to match this and another one that seemed to be a little bit more untidy. I would say that I'm 95% sure that Bryan Kohberger didn't write that, but we'll see.
To try to basically create a mask or an image for how he wants people to see him. So obviously he didn't design his office. What's really going to tell us something is what books he has, what's written on that board. But I thought we would take a quick look so you could get a good idea of what his office actually looked like, if you haven't seen it.
The office looked like somewhere where they just put him. So he had an office. It's not really an office, is it? It's a spare room, which is something that you do see in a lot of colleges, schools, and universities. When they get somebody in, they have a spare space that isn't currently being used, and they just say, "Look, you can go in there and use that as your office." They don't actually have dedicated. I've seen it before. I saw Tom Buck. If you're someone who's interested in like audio stuff, like who covers videos on cameras and mics, like he used to be a teacher before he went into YouTube, and he done a video on when he worked in a school or a university or a college, and they just chucked him in a room and said, "Look, do something with it. You can use it as your office."
This already. And here you can see little leftover bits from sticky notes, it looks like, or something like that, something that you'd use to peel and stick things on. And what's interesting is that he can be very meticulous and detailed about certain things, but not others. So trash like this maybe didn't bother him so much, whereas in other areas he's very clean.
Fuck, he just took stuff out of the drawer. How do we even know? Because I'm guessing these photographs as well were taken by law enforcement when they went round and took the photograph. So they might have even taken the things out of that drawer and just photographed the drawer once it was empty. I'm just speculating, but these are literally just like pieces of, like them command strips and things like that, just like sticky notes and bits that have been left in the fucking drawer. How is that indicating of anything other than that's just what was left in the drawer when it was emptied?
Organized. It's interesting also that you see here gender, nature, and nurture. He seemed to have a lot of issues around women. Still probably has a lot of issues around women.
And he's basically now trying to say that Gender, Nature, and Nurture, the book, is indicative of someone would only read that book if they had issues around women. Now, the Gender, Nature, and Nurture book, it says here, look, this engaging text presents the latest scientific findings on gender differences, similarities, variations in sexuality, cognitive abilities, occupational preferences, personality, and social behaviors. The impact of nature and nurture on gender is examined from the perspectives of genetics, molecular biology, evolutionary theory, neuroanatomy, sociology, and psychology. It's just about everything. It's just a book that looks at how the world affects the different sexes. Do you know what I mean? It's not something that someone who had a problem with women would think, oh, I need to get hold of this book and watch it or read it.
Curious if this was something he was assigned or if this was reading that he did on his own. Because based on what his interests are, I wouldn't be surprised at all if this is something that he chose to read or something that he made other people read, something to that effect. And then the book below it, Walls of Secrecy,
which he fucking skips over immediately. Now, I don't know whether he does that purposefully, because the Walls of Secrecy book was Kelly D. Messenger, who is a local to the area, and they are teaching it at that book, at that college. So local author's book taught at the WSU. Now, like I say, he doesn't go into details on this, but just the skinny on this. Kelly was a person who was local to the area, who had basically been incarcerated, done 10 years inside for killing their girlfriend, and later on was exonerated. And they spoke about, like this, look, how politicians turned a correctional institution into the top drug trafficking, gang-controlled murder capital of Washington. So an interesting book, which is being taught by the university, but he breezes over that very quickly.
There's not a whole lot else to look at. What we're going to do now is we're going to jump back and look at pictures of his apartment and see what it tells us about him. So the first thing you're going to notice as you start looking at pictures of his apartment is that it's fairly empty. You've got some basic necessities and some letters and things like that jammed into a closet. But generally speaking, overall, it's pretty barren and pretty empty.
But again, this was his, just like a room. This was a room, he worked as a TA, and he also left. He'd gone back home. So all of his clothes and everything he had taken. He'd literally taken. And what else do they expect to see there? What do you want to see there? Yes, it's fairly empty.
What's interesting to me about this, it shows his TV, it shows his entertainment.
Just before we move forward, look at where this card... So that's the TV, and the card is positioned here. I want you to just stick a pin in that and just think about it. Not near the TV, not obscuring the TV. It's off to the side. We will talk more on what he says about this card as well, but the positioning. Just also take note of the positioning.
Set up. There's not really much around it. There's no movies. There's no video game systems. There's not a lot of things that you might expect around somebody his age. Just a bunch of...
Around his age, nearly 30 years old, and he expects to say, did he say fucking games console? The guy is an outdoors person. He's a TA. He's studying for a doctorate. He's got books everywhere. He's a runner. He's an outdoors person, and he's saying, well, what we should be seeing is like a fucking DVD player sitting there, or a sound system, or a game system. Really?
Shoved into the area where most people keep entertainment items. So it's interesting that this looks like it's fairly unused. He doesn't look like somebody that watches much.
What do you mean fairly unused? It's full of fucking books. It's full of books. It's fairly empty of things that you are pushing as almost like a necessity of being a normal person, that being entertainment. Well, maybe some people don't see entertainment in what you see entertainment in. You know, he was, again, a doctorate student studying criminology. Plus, he had access to a laptop, potentially an iPad. So he would likely get his, consume things like social media, for instance, through that. Not a fucking DVD player on a TV or a games console.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. Not everybody needs to watch TV all the time. But he has cards set up next to his television, which is not something that most people would put there because it can obscure the view. So to me,
it's not obscuring the view, though. They're off to the side of it. Yes, you wouldn't put a fucking card right in smack bang in the middle, would you? But he's also not got many other maybe he just wants to put it somewhere where it will sit and he can see it. I don't know. But let's listen to what he says about the card. Just think of Teddy Roosevelt.
Says,
this is what
I don't think that he watches a lot of television. So this is a birthday card that he has set up right in front of his television, and I think it's very interesting. So it says, speak softly and carry a big stick. Unless you can ride a dinosaur, then do that instead. So obviously it's supposed to be funny, but what's so fascinating to me about this is that whoever gave him this birthday card pointed to a T-Rex and Teddy Roosevelt, says both of your egos. But the fact this points out both of your egos, I do think that shows that that his behavior could change very quickly. So in other words, he's quiet, that he's someone who is reserved, but the other side of him is like that T-Rex. It's something that's angry. It's impossible to control. So the fact that somebody noticed that and that he felt so proud of that, I think speaks volumes.
And again, he's the professional. I'm not the professional, but I feel that he has completely misinterpreted this situation as well. I think this is about, again, when you read into what this statement what it actually was about when Teddy Roosevelt raised it, and what you're seeing here is, bearing in mind, what is Bryan Kohberger doing? He is training for a doctorate. He's also he's teaching. He is being a TA, and this is about getting the most out of the individuals around you by, being soft when you can and when needs to be, and getting the best out of people. But also on the flip side of that coin, you have to have this side of you that is more sharp, is more strict, and when you have to, is exerting your authority. And I think this is something that we saw that perhaps came across as abrasive from some people, and that was that Bryan seemed to ask for quite a high standard. He had a high standard, and that pisses people off. It pisses people off. It rubs people off up the wrong way. For those of you who have been around this channel for any length of time, Mrs. Harsh works within a school. She's a teacher. She works with kids, and sometimes that puts her in a position, especially when she is trying to get more out of individuals who she feels can do more, but they don't, through either laziness or they just want to do the bare minimum just to get through, and she tries to exert a bit more pressure onto them so they do better and raise the bar. That can come across as, oh, you're a bitch. Do you know what I mean? And that's what you're seeing here. This isn't a nod to anything nefarious. This is a nod to someone who knows exactly the position that Bryan's in and perhaps how he can be, and to make sure that they're saying, the two sides of you, that soft side, use that when you need to use it, but also remember what you're there to do, and to impact people, you have to do that. You have to exert that pressure. You have to get them to raise the bar. Be soft when it's needed and be sharper when it's required, when it's also needed. That's my interpretation. I could be wrong.
Again, of how he wants to be seen. He wants to be seen as quiet and in control, but seems to also enjoy the fact that he has this other side to him so much that he has this sitting on his entertainment center. Now, I want you to notice the date on this. 11/21/22. The murders occurred on 11/13/22. So something like this probably really was important to him, because he did see himself as this powerful T-Rex. He did see himself as having this powerful savage side. And that's the problem with a lot of these killers, particularly ones that want to become serial killers. They see it as powerful. They see what they've done as something that is giving them strength. They see that as something to be admired.
Again, let me know down below whether you think that this guy is got this card down to a T. Am I wrong? And indeed, Bryan Kohberger saw himself as a T-Rex in the aftermath of the murders, and wanted a picture of him, who he saw as a T-Rex, in front and center in the living room.
So a comparison like this, even though I'm sure it was entirely accidental by whoever gave it to him, I'm sure is something that really resonated with him.
It wasn't an accident. Absolutely weren't an accident, in my opinion.
So the fact that his apartment is so empty, it's entirely possible that he cleared out some of this after the murders occurred. He may have touched something and then became afraid that he had contaminated it.
But then you'd empty the whole fucking lot, wouldn't you? You would literally then, if you're afraid, you would empty the entire lot. You wouldn't just then be selective over what you get rid of. All of them books and stuff like that, the car, you'd get rid of everything. Especially the fucking card. Because if you're saying he might have touched something and he loved that card and he said it there, he'd received that card after the murders, yada yada yada. It literally, you'd get rid of everything. Surely the whole fucking place would be empty. It would be empty. Definitely empty.
It is. So it's possible that this is not how he always lived, but I suspect it's probably pretty close. Because if you look at this, he just doesn't have much here. Tools, tape, laundry detergent.
I don't understand. When he says he doesn't have much here, bearing in mind this isn't it's not his home. This is just somewhere where he goes back to after work, eats, sleeps, fucks off, repeats. Do you know what I mean? What else are you wanting there? I don't understand what more you're expecting to see. That's, in my opinion, being a bit presumptive of what you're expecting to see here. And I don't know what else you can see. The guy's got a load of tools and stuff in a drawer, which he's got more tools in a drawer than I've got. He's obviously got his cutlery and stuff like that, but he's not a fucking free kid family with a dog and that, is he? He's a single nearly 30-year-old student in a student digs.
To me that he keeps all of his silverware, including his knife. Everything is in one drawer. It's all so minimal, and he doesn't keep any of it out. But
what do you mean he doesn't keep any of it out? Fucking pots and pans, massive great cupboard. They're all in there, and they all look to be quite decent and quite nice in the cupboard. And he goes, well, he doesn't leave anything out. Oh my God, he's a killer. He don't leave.
Everything feels so barren. It feels so empty.
No, you mean clean, not empty and bare. Everything seems clean and tidy and put away.
And if you look at how clean the oven is, I don't know if he's someone that cleaned his oven often or if he just didn't use it that much.
Listen, pay close attention to this.
I'm guessing he didn't use it that much, because if you look right here, there's dirty stuff and like
there's food on there. Look, there's food there. Yes, the oven looks fucking clean. That is clean, but he puts it down to, well, you probably don't use it that much. Don't use it.
Food on the edge of the drawer that you pull out under the oven. But I mean, just look at the basic essentials he has. Lots of water, detergent,
Again, bearing in mind he's gone home. So from a fresh food perspective, stuff that can spoil over a duration of time away, there ain't a lot of that. But he's got things like extra virgin olive oil in the cupboard. He's got cleaning fluid. He's got other stuff that's non-spoilable foods, if you like, things that aren't going to go bad in a few weeks while he's away. What is he expecting? To see a load of fresh grub out? Load of fresh.
Very basic foods. He's also someone who's not prepared for company. He doesn't have enough to invite people over, to have people come to his house. It doesn't look like someone who's expecting.
Look, there's freezer full of food. Little freezer box. Look, loads of pizzas in there, loads of other stuff. Pizza again. All this food in here. So bearing in mind he's not going to be here as well, but the freezer is rammed full of stuff. And where are you cooking that? Cooking that in the oven, ain't you? So he does use the oven.
Kind of guess. He's not equipped for that. So this is someone who had already.
What does he mean he hasn't got anything in the fridge? If someone wanted to come over and have pizza with him, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's got 6 pizzas in there. He could have a pizza night. Just ain't going to be playing PlayStation because it don't seem to be there. But he could have took that home with him, couldn't he? He's gone home to his parents' house. He could have had a games console and took it home with him. I don't think he's that rich that he's got one there and he's got another one chilling at home.
Assumed he was going to be living a solitary life. I don't think he's someone that expected to have people over.
Loads of grubbage.
When you look at his fridge, also there's some
tofu as well. Look, so he was vegan, didn't like meat, but had a leather knife sheath. Go figure.
In the drawers, it looks like some leftover bits. He's someone that is. It's empty, but it's
maybe that's what happened. Maybe he did do it, and the knife sheath. He realised it was leather in the house when he got in there. And was like, leather, and threw it.
Super clean, and that's what's so strange about him. Is it's not like everything has to just be spotless. There's just not much there. And to me, I think that the amount of things that he has, it's because he doesn't feel enough to care about keeping many possessions. There was that birthday card that made him feel powerful.
How do you know that the birthday card made him feel powerful? It was a birthday card. If you get a birthday card, you're going to put it out, and you're going to be like, "Oh, I've got a birthday card. Stand it up." Where would he? If they'd have found the birthday card in the drawer or in the bin, screwed up, that'd have been well. He's clearly not happy with it being his birthday. He's clearly a killer. Clearly a killer. His birthday card sitting on the side, problem. Thinks he's a dinosaur.
Really not seeing much here that would bring any sort of joy or any sort of positive feelings. I think he's someone that is truly devoid, or it may be entirely.
Maybe he finds joy in getting out of the fucking house. How about that? Finds joy in getting outside. What are you expecting to see? A massive pair of nipple tassels and a strap on. I don't understand what you're expecting to see, that he's going to get joy. What do you want? A trampoline in the corner and some balloons? I don't get it. There's books in there. There's a TV in there. There's a birthday card on the side. He's tidy. The stuff's all packed away. It's not a shithole. And you're saying, well, there's just nothing here. Nothing that's going to make him happy. Well, getting outside in the fresh air and going for a run, going down the park and that. That's what makes him happy. And he's surrounded by books, which he's a reader, clearly.
Of feeling positively. I mean, you look at these books here. America's Safest City, Research Methods, Social and Health Sciences, Convicting the Innocent, Charged. I mean, all of these could just be books that he has for school. These all seem very much consistent with the kind of books that you would be assigned as a criminology student. So, and if you look at the stickers on some of them, clearly like a trial by jury was bought used. So that looks like a used sticker that you'd buy.
So he's got books that, because I weren't sure about these books and where in his studies, but I've been put right. So I accept that.
University. So here's some of his paper on research topics. Let's see what it says. Let's see if it tells us anything about him. While an analysis of criminal behavior under the lens of the rational choice perspective considers the intuitive notion that offenders weigh costs against benefits when committing crimes, not all criminal actions reflect a rational instrumental process. He is very long-winded. He is not somebody that that is concise, not somebody who wants to.
And what he's fucking ignoring here, right, and I'm going to call this out right now for someone who I've got a degree in psychology. When you go to university, they don't want you to be fucking concise and short and to the point. You have to extrapolate. You have to overindulge in the topics and make sure that it's as fucking broad as it is long. They want that. That's what you have to do. So to say that he's basically writing too much and he needs to be shorter and snappier and get to the point, that ain't what they want. Not in my experience. You guys, if any of you have been to university yourselves in the US, because I obviously haven't been there in the US, you can tell me if I'm wrong. But in my own personal experience, you have to extrapolate on points. You have to really go into detail and again, not be short and to the point snappy, because they'll just say you ain't written enough. You've got to, again, express more. You've got to tell us more about why you're saying what you're saying.
Point across globally. He wants to get the details. So this is somebody who's very detail oriented and is too verbose. He talks too much.
I would say doctorates are detail orientated. They want the detail.
It's very clear from the way he writes. For instance, crimes of passion involve reactive violence, which manifests due to intense emotional arousal, confounding notions of exclusively cold criminal calculus, which describes him perfectly. This is precisely what he engaged in during the murders. With respect to the limitations of the rational choice perspective, the minimization or exclusion of the analysis of the influence of affectivity on offender decision-making permeates existing research. God, I really hate the way he writes, to be honest with you.
But that's just your personal opinion on how he writes. And what you're also doing here is completely ignoring the fact that you're also reading something written by someone who has been diagnosed with autism, level 1 autism, which I would say that if you were to take that into consideration, he's done a fucking good job, because you're talking about these things that he has, ADHD as well, all of these things that will potentially contribute to issues when doing this kind of writing, and he has actually done it extremely well. And this guy here is criticising him and criticising the way that he's writing, criticises shortly, unless I've missed it, the words that he uses.
It's far too wordy, and he's not really getting to the point. Such a dearth of research, and plus using words like dearth, it shows you that he's trying to sound smart when there are better ways to say this in this kind.
Trying to sound smart. Or maybe he just is smart. Maybe he used dearth because that's the word that he wanted to use in his own writing.
Such a dearth of research surrounding emotions and decision-making, particularly regarding how emotions may interfere with the cost-benefit analysis of offenders, precludes a true apprehension of the intricacies.
I'm going to skip forward through that.
But there's a little star that says, careful.
Purely because he's annoying the shit out of me. The guy's wrote a fucking essay that he obviously was asked to write. He's done it with ADHD, level 1 autism, and, and he's saying he's done it, he's too wordy, and he's using words that he's trying to make himself sound smart. This guy is a professional, by the way.
Flowery language and constant use of positive voice. So his writing quality could use a little bit of work. I want you to keep in mind also that some of these papers were written leading right up to when he committed the murders. So September is when some of these are dated. The murders occurred in November of 22. So it's really wild that he would have actively been in a planning and phase of this as he was writing some of these papers. And some of these papers...
How do you think he done that? Do you know what I mean? When you're thinking that he's doing this writing, he's doing so much of this writing, bearing in mind he would be a TA as well. So he's a TA, he's doing all that work, and that is demanding in itself. And there will be the marking involved in that, looking at their work, marking it, getting it in. And he will also have all of his own work. Again, we've just listened to this, and look at the amount that is there. And he has literally just said that a lot of these are literally in the lead up to this crime. So he's doing this as well. Man, this motherfucker can multitask. I'm telling you, he can multitask with the best of them. So not only is he a motherfucking ninja, but he is a multitasking menace.
Jury deliberation to decide between law and justice. It's also very possible he considered that he might end up getting caught for what he's doing. So I think he was researching every aspect of this. I think that's also partially why this took so long to prosecute, because they were fighting it every inch of the way. And he is, even if he's not a super smart guy, he's pretty knowledgeable, it seems like, on some of these things. He may not be the smartest guy.
Well, he's fucking clearly not smart, though, is he? If he's guilty of this crime, why the fuck would you take that deal? Like, some people turn around and say, I'm not going to listen to any more of him. I can't listen to any more of him. I'm just going to leave it with this, right? If you, God bless him. I don't know who he is. Go check him out. Dr. G. He's a professional. He's got nearly 500,000 subscribers. You just listen to what he was saying. Tell me whether he's right and I'm wrong. I'm not saying I'm right. That's just my opinion. But what was I going to say with respect to Bryan Kohberger? Like, some people turn around and say, if he's innocent in this crime, why would you take this deal, right? And I think to myself, even if you was fucking guilty, why would you take that deal? It's equal, isn't it? If you're guilty, then why wouldn't you just go into court and roll the dice? Even more so, I think this, right? I think if you're guilty, right, and you literally got your legal representation stating in court, if you've got an ounce of fucking savvy, I must be dodgy, because I'm thinking about this. If I was in his position, if I was guilty, how would I play this out? Because I'd be thinking, hold on a second, I'm guilty. But my legal counsel has literally said in court that they're not prepared for my trial. I'm going to stick a pin in that motherfucker. Let's go to trial and roll the dice for a start, because it is what it is. And I will go to appeal and literally call out the fact that my own legal counsel has turned around and said they were unprepared for trial. Unprepared. Literally said it out of a fucking horse's mouth. I do not understand why anybody would take this fucking deal. The only person, in my opinion, that would take this deal is someone who is not guilty of this crime, but is fucking petrified of being sentenced to death. The impact that has on them, and potentially the impact that has on their family, especially if they've got a close, loving relationship with their mum, their dad. That's my thought process, and also in the knowledge that all of the documentation is going to go out, and there is a potential later on down the line for me to be exonerated as someone else picks up on something, or I myself can continue looking at things and find something myself. Who knows? Again, I'm not saying I'm right. That's just my opinion, and you're entitled to your own opinion. Well, say you're entitled to your own opinion. Some fucker will probably try and shoot me now. Love you all, and I will catch you all tomorrow. Mwah.